Welcome back to my channel. Now I'm out on site and I'm starting a new project, and this project is, if you haven't guessed already by looking at the scaffold and looking at the roof behind me, a roof conversion. Now, I started my whole career back in the day as an apprentice for a loft conversion company, and it was then when I really found my love of roof construction, especially, which is what I do a lot on this channel, and of course refurbishments and making spaces such as this roof behind me into habitable spaces. In this case, we're going to make a beautiful bedroom and a bathroom. It'll be the biggest bedroom in the house, probably the biggest room in the house as well. It'll have a beautiful stair over the existing stair as well. It'll all match in lovely. And this is something which is done up and down the country, and is probably one of the most popular and cost-effective ways of improving a house, because of the fact that you don't generally need any extra foundations. There's no expensive groundwork. You've got effectively everything you need to build off. So this video is just a little bit about the preparation that I like to do before I start a job like this. Now, this is a really good friend of mine's house, so I'm here project managing and also doing all of the sort of carpentry labour and everything else. When I'm preparing for a job like this, the key result is making sure everything is exactly right as you start the job. So the scaffold, for example, took a lot of organising to find the right scaffolder to do exactly what we wanted. This is a temporary roof and it's completely guarded and shielded from sort of really heavy rain. And this is really important because this is autumn coming into winter now. And in the UK, we have to build 365 days a year because we can have 4 seasons in one day. So it's best to just sort of like think, well, shouldn't really aim for spring because there's no guarantee that it's not going to be dry in spring or summer. So scaffold's really important, getting the right scaffolder, not scrimping on a scaffold, paying the extra to have, as I say, like a temporary roof like this one over here, because it means that we can work continually and get the job done. And if we hit an issue, something which is going to stall the job, for example, then the job is protected. And of course, most loft conversions, people can't move out, they need to live in their houses, and of course that's another consideration as well. You don't want water getting in, you don't want the house to become dangerous, and so scaffolds are really important thing. Then of course, managing waste. We're fortunate enough here to be able to get a van off the road and also a skip in the drive, so we don't have to have licenses in a controlled parking area, or indeed any road, especially in England. We have to have licenses, which can be expensive. So we've got our rubbish worked out, we've got our scaffold and our access and our sort of everything we need to get on and work. And then of course, then it's materials. It's making sure you do a really good takeoff of materials and work out exactly what you're doing. Now, before I started the job, I obviously surveyed the loft. The architect's done it as well, and I've got all my own dimensions. I know how long all of my structural beams are. I know what timbers I need to use, and this is all assuming we can do exactly what the engineer, who's never visited site, he gets a set of drawings and says this will work, that will work, will actually work. So once we strip the roof, the first job will be stripping the roof off. Once we've done that, then I'll be able to get to the wall plates, I'll be able to get my exact measurements, and from that moment I'll order my steels, my timber, and get cracking. There'll be a few days before they'll arrive out on site, and once they arrive out on site, then we can actually start the construction. So all of that aside, we've also got to think about building control, or building regulations. So in this case, this is part of a bigger job. We've done a rear extension here, so this is all part of the same application. So we don't have to notify the local authority, and they have all the paperwork they need. They have all of the specification that we're going to build to. They have the structural engineers, details, and that's really important as well. You can't just go and embark on work like this, even if you think it's permitted development, it's allowed, my neighbours have done it. You've got to get the right permissions. It may be planning permission, it may just be permitted development, but equally you still need to notify your local council. I'm speaking from England's perspective because I've never worked in Wales or Scotland or indeed Ireland. Yeah, so building regulations are also super important. So you've got to make sure you've got all of these things in place. And then of course, finding a contractor. There's lots of loft companies who will do design and build. They'll take care of all of that for you. And you will pay a premium, of course, because they're providing you with a really good service. But if you're going to try and do like a lot of people end up having to do, is kind of like find an architect, get them to draw it, then go out to different builders or contractors, try to find a builder or contractor, which isn't easy, and get prices, and they can vary wildly, okay? So you need to have done your due diligence, maybe seen people working in the area, see how they work, speak to them, and take recommendations as much as possible, and then get some prices and hopefully get the work booked in. But once the work's underway, then of course you've got to manage expectations. If you are working for clients and you're doing the loft, you've got to manage expectations. If you're doing these kinds of roofs day in, day out in the same area and they're all the same, you can pretty much say this is how long they'll take, and they might take 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever, depending on finishes. But if it's a one-off and it's in a street houses which are all different, then it's really hard to say, it's really hard to predict. But generally speaking, I think you've got to allow for a big conversion like this, where you're taking the roof effectively off, you've got to allow 12 weeks before, by the time you get in, get started, have a little bit of change along the way, maybe wait for some of the contractors to get there because they're really busy. So realistically, I think you've got to allow 12 weeks. Back in the day, when I first started out, things were much, much simpler. Insulation was a lot less. We used to put half the amount in that we do now, which meant half the price of insulation and twice as quick to fit it. Nowadays, the regulations surrounding sound, fire, heat, insulation, electrical, gas, all of those things which are really important, we need to make sure that we do correctly, and they do take time. And also finishes as well. We're a lot more into fancy finishes now, like bathrooms with built-in niches and tile, wall, floor to ceiling tiling, underfloor heating, heating under the tiles, and all of these things add to the program, and they add cost as well. So years ago, when I first started, the electrician would come into a loft conversion, he'd have one pendant hanging in the middle, he'd probably have 2 or 3 double sockets, a light switch, and that was it. Not like now, where we might have a series of spotlights, some lamps, we might have 4, 6, 8 sockets, we might have underfloor electric heating, Cat6 cabling, networking back to the router. There's all of these other things at play now which actually add cost and time. So this is the start of the job, and that's a little bit about what's involved, how to get about it as well. Now money, let's talk about money. Now a loft conversion like this, depending on where I am, so this is in the suburbs, outskirts of London, we don't have parking restrictions. It's easy to get a lorry up and down the road, and so on and so forth. These sorts of jobs in this area are anywhere sort of 60k plus. Some of them are slightly less if not that structurally involved, if you can come off the existing walls inside for that sort of stuff. But that's the sort of money it is here. The closer you get to London, the dearer it gets. I know that lofts like this in some of the fancy parts of London will cost you double that or even triple that, depending on the specification, access, aggravation, whether your guys want to go there in the first place and pay £35 a day parking, worry about tool theft. So yeah, that's the sort of order. But think about it, this roof is shot, it needs tiling, okay? So if you were doing this job, taking the tiles off, taking all the battens off, recovering it, maybe re-insulating it, that's a big sum of money. The fact that we're taking it off, we're taking the rafters off, a lot of them are fatigued, they're not straight anymore. We're going to build a fantastic new structure. We're going to retile the roof as we go. It's going to be fully insulated. So the money that you would have spent recovering a roof like this, yes, you've still got to have a scaffold, maybe only 50% of the scaffold that we've got here. You wouldn't necessarily need a lid. Will go towards this cost. So let's say it was 25k to recover a roof like this properly and insulate it and ventilate it. That 25k now is lumped into this price. So the economy for scale for actually getting your roof covered and converted at the same time, brilliant way to go. And as I say, moving house to gain an extra bedroom, especially in the area where I am now, it's going to cost you way more once you've added stamp duty on, fees, selling this and all the aggravation that goes with it. It's going to cost you way more than the cost of re-roofing and converting as you go. So I think it's a real good consideration about it. Now the other thing as well, if you're embarking on any building work, make sure you tell your home insurance company that having building work done. They may want to ask a few questions about how much, what's it going to be doing and everything else, and that's really important. It's generally only a phone call. Sometimes they may give you a little increase in premium. but it's worth paying, okay, because all of that sort of stuff is absolutely invaluable. And going back to building control, make sure you've got a building control notice in place, make sure you call them in for the inspections, and make sure you stay as safe as possible. Now, I'm going to be doing a few more videos on this job as we go. Anything I feel I haven't covered on the channel, which I could cover again. But before that, if you want to ask me, is there anything specific you want to know about a loft conversion that I may be able to capture whilst filming, let me know. Thanks for joining me.